So let's talk a little bit about the genesis of the project. Sorry, I should just, everyone hear that? Just all pan along. Let's talk a little bit about how this project came to be.
Okay. This project started a very, very long time for me. 5 years. My earliest emails on this date back 5 years. We had a lot of starts, a lot of stops, but about 10 months ago, we really got off the ground. Thanks very much in part to our fearless leader. We're not advancing, there he is. Bob Iger spearheaded this whole thing for us, and we couldn't have asked for anyone more supportive or more enthusiastic about showing off the people who work for Disney and the cast behind the scenes.
I'm going to use this.
Okay.
Good afternoon and welcome. Sorry about my microphones. Can I have 3 more, please? So then Wendy and I got in touch, and we quickly set to mapping out our ideas. Being a part of D23, and I've been lucky enough to be a part of the fan club for more than 10 years, since before we launched. D23, as I think many of you know, offers this incredible perspective to things happening all around the Walt Disney Company. So when it came time to identify people from all around the Walt Disney Company, I was super excited to be able to jump in and help brainstorm ideas with this brilliant woman. And that's what we did for weeks and weeks. We just started coming up with job ideas and job descriptions and like, does anyone do this job at Disney? And in fact, we found people who had these incredible, remarkable jobs that I don't think either of us even
We had
knew
no
happened.
idea, absolutely no idea. And one of the parameters for these jobs, because lots of people have really interesting jobs at this company, but some of them don't really look great and they're not that visually compelling. So one of our parameters was finding people who do things that look really interesting, aside from just being really interesting.
Yeah, me sitting at my desk, no one,
Not so
that's
much.
not a spread in magazine people.
We had a lot of finance people a little upset that they didn't get to. What are you going to do? So I just wanted to show this image because it gives us a sense of the breadth of the project. And as Jeffrey mentioned, we did the 76 photo shoots, and that spanned 21 cities over 3 continents and 24 hours. So it was kind of a miracle.
And a lot of communications teams.
Across the company. So our other partner all along the way on this was Xenia Muka, who, for those of you who don't know, is the Chief Communications Officer of the company. And she and her League of Professional Communications Teams, which is Jeffrey's part of, couldn't have been more supportive and helped us navigate, get the talent, get everyone to agree, and they were just so integral. A lot of them I know in the audience today supporting their panelists. So, and then here's just a look.
Well, and selecting the date.
The date.
That was-
the date.
How do you, like, once you identify dozens and dozens of people, how do you find a day they're all doing something interesting? So we narrowed it down. It could not be before, it had to be after the first week in January, as many of you, any of you ever been to Disneyland? Okay, all 2 of you, thank you. Disneyland, Walt Disney World, all of our parks and resorts, they celebrate the happiest holidays on earth until the first week of January. And we felt like, well, if we're gonna represent all of our parks around the world, having it be Christmas felt like it was very specific. So we wanted it to be able to be a little bit more general. What's a day when it just looks like Disneyland or Walt Disney World, or our cruise lines just look magnificent as they do on their own? And then one of our comms leads came to us and said, you know, February's really busy for us, but maybe we can work this around because we've got this little movie that we're junketing. It's called Captain Marvel. And suddenly we were like, Captain Marvel, like, that seems like it's going to be a kind of an important movie. So we actually used the junket day for Captain Marvel as our anchor day because we knew that we were going to have a lot of our some of our great talent, including Brie Larson, was going to be able to be a part of this book. And so I can't wait for you to see that spread. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
But that actually is how we determined our date. And obviously we needed to make sure that it was far out enough that we had enough time to actually make a documentary series and publish a book.
And the Captain Marvel date was also interesting because we thought a press junket, people have seen movie premieres, that's on the news, it's online, but people really don't get to see the press junket, and it's a very much of a backstage kind of thing that we do. So we thought it was a perfect day to launch our photo shoot. Well, we just wanted to show you this because this is the 120th version of our master grid. I should point out that we're now up to 155. And this master grid has been managed every single day by our master organizer, Jack Anastasia, who's been part of this project since January. And we just want to thank him for somehow managing to keep this all together.
And one other person, well, Dan and
Yeah,
David.
so this shot, this is a page from the book, but we just want to give you a sense of just how many people participated just from photography in making this happen. And David Rourke from Walt Disney World and Disneyland Parks Photography around the world, and Dan Richards from ABC Photography really just pulled off a photography miracle. We can't thank them enough for making this happen. And they did it so seamlessly, it was almost as though they did it every day. So.
And someone else who worked fairly seamlessly, I have to say, is our incredible author, Bruce Steele, who is here somewhere today. So he interviewed every single person and somehow got them all in at word length and in deadline. And Bruce and I go back a long way. So when the idea for the book came, I said, Wendy, I think I know the perfect guy to write this book. And
he was right. So Bruce conducted...
I'm always right.
Yeah, Bruce conducted 79 interviews over the course of about a month and managed to write a beautiful profile of each and every one of those people. Very unique, very different, and you'll learn so much about this, the cast members and employees at Disney that you would never find anyplace else.
And speaking of those great cast members, we've got 6 empty seats here, so I'd love to introduce to you a few of the people featured in the book. Our own Eye in the Sky for ABC. Thanks. No one can trust you with a clicker, I
It's
swear.
just not going.
Our own Eye in the Sky for ABC7, a helicopter pilot who began his career as a monorail pilot at Walt Disney World while attending University of Central Florida. Please welcome Chris Christie. A construction manager at Walt Disney Imagineering and responsible for all the logistics on all WDI construction projects for Disneyland resorts, most recently on a tiny project you may have heard of called Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Please welcome Imagineer Christina Dewberry. Welcome. One of our top animation talents of our generation, our next panelist began his career at Disney Animation in 1990 as a supervising animator for Genie in Aladdin. He's gone on to work on such films as Pocahontas, Hercules, Fantasia 2000, Get a Horse, and Moana. Please welcome Eric Goldberg. There she is. This guest oversees day-to-day operations of a Disney facility you may not have heard of, but has been on screen for decades. Our Golden Oak Ranch, about 30 miles north of Burbank. The 890-acre ranch, which Walt purchased in 1959, has been filming location for hundreds of films, TV shows, and commercials, from Spin and Marty and the Parent Trap to Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End and Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Please welcome Steve Slide. Born in Dallas, our next guest is one of Radio Disney's on-air personalities, hosting interviews and performances with some of the most sought-after stars in music. Please welcome Candice Valdez. Last but certainly not least, giant fan conventions don't just happen. You can ask anyone at D23 Expo that. And our next guest oversees the mammoth Lucasfilm event, Star Wars Celebration. He and his team also oversee character appearances, including the operation of beloved droids R2-D2 and BB-8. Please welcome Esti Mesa. So Chris, we're gonna go around, ask people some questions, show maybe some exclusive clips that no one's seen before. Please don't video record them. But what is the most interesting thing you have seen flying up in the sky?
It's a good question. You know, what we do often is so serious and not as happy as the other folks on stage here in terms of the daily duties. We cover violent crime, we cover natural disasters, and a lot of serious stuff. And interestingly enough, when
Super
people-
cheerful. Thanks, Chris. Way to go.
Yeah, hate to be Debbie Downer, but one of the most incredible things I have ever seen, and it's something I think about all the time, a story that we still talk about today, was actually while I was working in New York City about 9 years ago. The Miracle on the Hudson. Sully Sullenberger's Miracle Landing in the Hudson River, 1549 US Airways. Everybody lived. You know, we get there, people are standing on the wing. We are prepared to tell this tragic story of a plane crash in the middle of New York City, potentially people in the water. There's rescue boats, there's firefighters, there's everything you can imagine. We pull up and it looked like a movie set because there's literally hundreds of people evacuating this plane, standing on the wings of this plane. And it turns out that everybody lived, and I've just never to this day seen anything like that in my life, and I love that it was a happy ending.
It's a great story.
Yeah.
So why don't we take a moment and get to see a little glimpse of what your segment on One Day at Disney is going to look like.
Sounds good.
I should note that on December 3rd, when One Day at Disney comes out, on Disney Plus it will launch with a feature-length documentary, and then every week after that there will be a new short-form episode of the series highlighting someone who's been profiled in the book. So it's a great way to launch with this documentary series, and then it will constantly be a gift that keeps on giving all year long. Christina, obviously you've done some incredible work on Galaxy's Edge. Anyone visit Galaxy's Edge yet? Amazing. Is there one detail that you are particularly proud of? One specific thing? Obviously the whole land is amazing.
Okay, because that's where I was going to go. I was going to say, is everything
That's
an
such a
acceptable
cop-out answer.
I'm sorry.
No. One thing.
All right, two things.
Two things, okay.
My favorite thing at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge is the marketplace, and there is a little stall in there called the Creature Stall. I love animals, and so to be able to adopt a porg or a lothcat, and see the creatures in that shop, it's really my favorite place. You'll find me there, that nerd in the corner, that will be me. But my very favorite thing about Star Wars Galaxy's Edge has really been the amazing and overwhelming reaction of the fans, and to be able to see how much it means to you. From D23 right here a couple of years ago, where we heard the announcement and the room was just, the energy of the room was amazing, to then when they announced it, of course, and then to opening day, right? And to see all of the range of emotions of people walking in and crying and excited. It was just so thrilling for us as Imagineers. And so even today, right, as the people go and they live their own Star Wars story and they post on social media, right, we get that little thrill every time we see those, because it's just been an overwhelming response. So I really wanted to just say thank you to the fans.
That's awesome. I want to thank you for the creature stall because I adopted Ollie, my porg. We are very happy. He's great, and
Okay.
several nests around my home already. So
Outstanding. Outstanding.
why don't we have a glimpse at Christina's episode of One Day at Disney? Eric, my friend, thank you for being here today. You have worked on so many incredible characters, so many beloved characters, and I'm sure you get asked this all the time, and it's like picking a favorite child, perhaps, but is there a favorite character that you've worked on?
Okay, I'm gonna give you two answers.
What are you, Christina Dewberry?
Yeah! The favorite character that I've helped create has to be the genie. You know, I think that That was my first Disney gig, was animating the genie in Aladdin. And I feel like I landed on my feet, you know, and what a great opportunity, and to work with the great Robin Williams. And my favorite classic character that I've animated, Mickey Mouse. Because I think Mickey embodies animation, you know? He really embodies every single principle in animation that you would use. Squash and stretch, great poses, great timing, and nuanced acting. You can get it all in that one little mouse. And I love animating it.
That is awesome. Why don't we have a look at your One Day at Disney?
Okay?
Steve, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Steve is the least likely guy to ever want to be on a stage, and so when I called him and said, Steve, you're going to be on stage, he was like, oh, great.
Great. Thanks.
So managing Golden Oak Ranch, you have seen many celebrities, but I'm told that you aren't maybe really big on pop culture, so recognizing celebrities perhaps not your forte. Has there been one, maybe two, that we might get a kick out of hearing who you did not recognize?
I thank Christina for setting the precedent of two. Probably the one that my family will tell you that I don't get out nearly enough. And I was living on the property. I lived on the property for several years, and we were shooting a little film called Pearl Harbor. And we had put in the rice paddies to crash the B-25s in, and they were filming one night, and I was sitting on the front porch just watching all the craziness that is movie making. And a gentleman walked up in an aviator's jacket and asked, can I sit down? So we sat down and we talked for a few minutes, and he says, well, it looks like it's my turn. And he got up and walked away, and my wife walked out of the house and says, you have no idea who that was, do you? I said, well, he said his name was Ben. She said it was Ben Affleck. And the next one was, we were having an issue. We were shooting a ABC Sunday night made for TV, Their Eyes Were Watching God, which starred Halle Berry. And my crew had mentioned that we were having trouble with the paparazzi at the gate, and could we do anything to clear the gate to get the crews through? And so I went up and talked to the paparazzi, and for some reason they said, okay, thanks. They all got in their cars and left. So a little while later, I was down on set, and a young lady came running up to me and said, are you Steve? And I said, yes, ma'am. And she gave me a big hug and said, thank you, thank you, thank you, and ran off. And I turned to locations, and I said, who was that? He says, you're kidding, right? I said, no, who was it? He says, that was Halle Berry.
That is part of one of Steve's many charms. Let's take a look at Steve's episode. One of the great things about Steve's episode and the photos in the book is Golden Oak is a place some of you may have heard of, and we do have a community in Orlando that is named after it. But the real Golden Oak Ranch is not open to the public. Really, the only way you can truly get there is if you're shooting. So the book and the series are going to offer a look for the first time at a lot of the production abilities that ranch has. It's really very cool. So looking forward to your episode, Steve. Moving on to someone who hopefully does know the celebrities she interviews.
A little bit.
Candace. I'm assuming you've had, I don't know, some really interesting interviews. Is there one that really surprised you in a way that we can say in front of a crowd of people?
Yes. I'm probably going to have to say the interview with Pharrell Williams. You guys know Pharrell. He's probably one of the coolest. Someone's clapping.
Steve does not know Pharrell.
So Pharrell, similar hat to you in the video. Yeah, he's got cool hats. He's just literally one of the coolest people on the planet. Super intimidating in person. He's just a musical genius. He speaks in poems. It's just like that emoji with your, when you listen to him, it's just like, he's just incredible and very intimidating, big entourage. And by the end of the interview, he was asking people to call in to win Trader Joe's cookie butter, which was like something we don't give away on Radio Disney typically, but when Pharrell comes, it's like, well, no budget. Whoever wants Trader Joe's cookie butter, call up. So I was very surprised at how the interview went, from deep musical thoughts to snacks. So it was a good time.
I like that. And did you get some cookie butter after that?
I did did not, but all the listeners did, which is good.
It's a win for everyone.
Yeah.
Let's catch a glimpse of Candace in One Day at Disney. Esty, you have two very cool jobs. Star Wars Celebration, obviously one of the biggest, or the biggest event in the Star Wars galaxy. But you also have something really, really cool in working with the droids. What is it that you think, what is it about the droids that you think people love so much? Why are they so endearing?
Yeah, it's this amazing experience where no matter who you are, what age you are, you see R2, you see BB-8, you see the droids come, and you just melt. You know, instantly they are real to you, and you start having these conversations with these droids, and you forget, you know, everything that's happening, and suddenly you're immersed in the Star Wars environment, no matter where you are. It's just this beautiful thing to see where little kids, you know, giving R2 a hug, adults giving R2 a hug, which really brings everyone together, and it's a magical kind of experience to be part of.
Why don't we have a look at Esty in One Day at Disney?
Hey, bud. How you doing?
BB-8, thank you so much for being here. I had to ask. So we get to ask Esty what it's like working with the droids, but what's it like working with Esty? What did he say?
I think he likes it.
BB, we'll talk after. So I did want to open this up. I wanted to first ask you guys, you all come from such incredibly diverse backgrounds here at the company, but all of your days seem very, very cool. What is one day like for you? Anyone who wants to jump in? Christina.
That's awesome.
You can say two things.
I can say, wow. Every day is different for me, and I love that. Being able to work on all of the different construction projects at Disneyland Resort right now, I have the ability to meet and work with amazing teams on really cool things, and no day is the same.
Eric?
You know, aside from drawing and animating, a lot of what I do is creative problem solving. You know, if we're working with clients or doing a theme park projection show, for example, you know.
He, by the way, did some of the new animation in Villainous, coming to California Adventure World of Color. Little plug there for him.
Thank you. And we meet with the various people who are producing the various segments and help tell the story. In the case of Villainous, help create a brand new character. You know, Shelley Marie didn't exist before we created her. And that's very fun. And so there's both technical challenges and creative challenges. If you're showing something on a castle, you know, then there are certain limitations that you have as far as what's going to show up. On the other hand, creating characters and then realizing them in animation is wonderful. I had a grand old time doing Minnie Maui in Moana, the tattoo on Maui's chest. And if you think about it, he's completely a pantomime character. But we managed to convince people that Big Maui and Minnie Maui had a relationship together, even though Minnie Maui doesn't speak. He could do it all with his body and his facial expressions. And that's, you know, every new character is a new challenge.
So every new day is something different. that probably is true for most people. I think we all have ideas of what our days are going to be like, and then they end up completely going off the rails at some point, in a magical way, of course. So I guess I'd love to hear from all of you about when you heard that you were selected to be a part of this project, and it was shrouded in secrecy for so long. How did you react, Esty?
Well, it's funny because I didn't really understand what I was getting myself into. I honestly thought it was going to be like this small little project, like a company, newsletter kind of a thing. And it really wasn't until I got here and all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, this is like a really, really big deal. And it was just like an incredible honor, really, just to be one of the people representing Lucasfilm on this project, just because obviously it's such a core foundational, I think, experience for us to express what we do in our roles and to share it with the world. And at least for me, and I think a lot of us, we're behind the scenes. Most people don't see what we do, and so now to get a peek behind the scenes, it's really kind of an honor to be one of those people representing that.
Steve?
I agree. There's a lot of work that goes into what goes on the screen, and being a part of the company, the expectations are high. We deliver much like those at the park. The expectations are on us as well. So to have hundreds of people on the property at one time doing several different films and things of that nature, and then for that to be recognized on behalf of the ranch is wonderful. But also, I had no idea what you were getting into.
Chris?
I felt a lot of weight on my shoulders because as exciting as my job is, and I think not only do we have the best jobs in the company, I think some of the best jobs in the world on this stage, representing KABC in particular and the group of people that I work with on a daily basis. It doesn't happen by itself. I mean, there's an incredible amount of experience. I work next to people who have been with the company for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. I don't think there's many companies that you could say that. I don't know many companies that have Imagineers that you work with. And so for me, representing KABC and working with the group of people that I work with, my pilot, because I'm actually the reporter, so I fly with a pilot and a photographer in the back, so we have a 3-man crew. We have transmission people back at the station that take in the signal. We've got people that write. We've got a whole line of producers and control room technicians and directors. And it is sometimes magic at the end of the day when you think about how we deliver live breaking news, whether it's a police chase or a wildfire or whatever the case may be, into people's living rooms and onto people's cell phones instantaneously. And to be recognized and represent that group of people is very, very humbling.
I know that you don't pilot the helicopter, but could you still pilot a monorail? I think that we should all check on Chris's skills after this, head over to the park, see.
So I actually started my career with Walt Disney World, at Walt Disney World. I grew up in Florida, in South Florida, and went to school at the University of Central Florida in Orlando, and worked at Disney World as a monorail pilot for a whole summer. And that was, at that point in my career, I thought that was the most exciting job in the world. It still was one of the most exciting.
Little did you know,
Little did I
forms of
know.
transportation would always be your work, period. We'll end with that. Candace, what did you think when you heard you were going to be a part of the project?
I was honestly very honored, but also very shocked because I had just been on maternity leave, and I was like, they didn't forget about me, yay! So very honored, very excited to see it, and just happy to be a part of something this magical and that spans the globe with all of these amazing people. So just thankful.
And in fact, the reason you were on maternity leave is here somewhere in the audience, little
That
Enzo.
was him yelling "Mama" a minute ago. Sorry. Hi, Enzo.
A lot of you are used to being behind the scenes, and even if you're on camera, being an on-camera person on camera in sort of a meta way is very unique. What was the photo shoot day like for each of you? It was all the same day, February 21st.
It was interesting. We had a little bit of an unexpected stopover. We were flying around with a photographer in the back, so not only my photographer who we fly with every day, but the book photographer was flying in the 4th seat in the helicopter, and we went to get some snow up in the mountains. It happened to snow that day up in the mountains, and we were cruising all over. We went to the Hollywood sign, went out to the beach, and we got some great shots. But on the way back from Santa Clarita, we happened to see some smoke coming from the ranch. And we actually ended up doing a breaking news report over the ranch over a potential brush fire at the Disney Ranch. Little did we know that Steve
We
was
were
in the
filming
process of shooting as
911.
well.
It was all scripted. We had the fire department respond as though the whole place was burning down. Yeah, we hadn't planned for it. It never snows in Santa Clarita except when you do a One Day at Disney shoot.
And just to make it even more surreal, after Chris called it in, we work on Golden Oak Ranch and corporate communications, so my phone goes off saying, "Is there a fire at Golden Oak Ranch?" And I'm like, "I think Steve's doing a photo shoot. Let me call Steve." Steve's like, "No, we're just filming an episode of something." So, as a company, we really do all work together. It's pretty hilarious. And there was not no trees were harmed in the making of that photo shoot. Christina,
Yes, sir.
your shoot day.
My shoot.
Talk about two things that happened on that day. I'm not going to let go of this. It's just too funny.
Hey, I deserve it. I deserve it. My shoot day was it was very interesting because I usually walk around the job site. You know, it's just a crazy symphony of amazingness, right? With all of the hundreds of people that are there making this magical place, right? And so for me to walk around with a camera crew, and they've known me, you know, as just Christina, maybe with a bullhorn at one point, saying, "Why are you doing that?" Was a big deal, right? It was kind of cool. Not gonna lie.
And Esty, BB, what was your shoot day like?
Yeah, I mean, I just got to hang out with him all day, so it's pretty awesome. You know, any chance I get to roll around with BB-8 in the hallway, it's always a good one, and this provided a great opportunity for that. And it's always fun because there's always someone new in the building who's never seen BB-8, and even the people who've seen BB-8, they just kind of, as you saw in the clip, they just melt down and they, you know, freak out when they see him rolling around.
I'm sorry, were you talking? I was looking at BB-8.
It's right, I'm used to being upstairs.
I think another thing that we all have in common with having very unique jobs and unique days is I think we all truly love Disney, and I wanted to know, all of you have been working for the company for a while. What is it that you love most about working for Disney? Just go down the line.
I think just because we bring so many smiles to so many people in so many different ways we're all different backgrounds, different ages, we're from all over the country, and just to be able to bring smiles to people's faces every day and see sort of the impact that Disney has on people and the way they just light up when they even hear that you work for Disney. They don't even always care what business unit it is. It's cool to be a part of.
You know, Disney means a lot to me. When I was a kid and I started, you know, watching the cartoons on television, watching the Mickey Mouse Club, the Disneyland program, you know, Walt was always part of our lives. And, you know, the spirit of animation always excited me. What I didn't realize, because my background was in television commercials to start with, was when I got to Disney, I didn't realize the scope of what we did until it was demonstrated to me. And that was the first time we had a work in progress screen of Aladdin for the Museum of Modern Art in New York. And the place is packed. I'm sitting next to Al Hirschfeld, whose work I appropriated for the film. And it's studded with celebrities, and the genie comes on and the place explodes. It just roars. And part of what was special about that is like, oh, I'm not doing little things anymore. I'm doing something that is very big, that's going to be seen by millions of people, and hopefully they will enjoy it. You know, like Candace said, you know, we're bringing smiles to a lot of people. And a lot of that comes from the spirit of collaboration, working with all the other animation artists and directors and designers, and longevity. You know, I've been to a lot of animation festivals in the last few years, and people will walk up to me with their 25-year-old Genie dolls and ask me to sign them. And our films are part of the popular culture around the world. That's a big deal, and we've got big shoes to fill every time out.
Big shoes to fill, and you know, it's I think the creativity, especially being in the news business where there's not a whole lot of, I mean, there's a lot of storytelling, but what I do every day is pretty much the facts, delivering facts and storytelling to the audience. But behind the scenes, I've actually had opportunities just in the short time that I've been back with ABC, just to do things that are outside the box, and the nurturing of creativity and the nurturing of fresh ideas that isn't really available at every other company, especially in the news business. It's a unique place to work, to say the least.
Yeah, it's you know, to echo, I think, the rest of us, it's an amazing place to work because we get to bring our passion, our energy, and our dedication into something that, you know, the end result we get to see oftentimes. You know, I'm really lucky that, you know, when I bring BB-8 out to different places, I get to see that on people's faces exactly how happy they are to see them. And then, you know, the events that I get to be a part of, like Celebration, I see tens of thousands of people just have this amazing experience, and it's this shared community that comes together. And it really does mean a lot to me, and I think probably to all of us, to be a part of that.
It's unique. You run a ranch for the Walt Disney Company. You become part of a bigger family. The ranch is part of the family. There's a lot of history at the ranch from the early days of Spin and Marty. But we have an operating premise of a balance between the environment, the community, and operations. And in every step we take, we attempt to hit that. So our days usually start just before sunrise. So we get to see every sunrise. And when you drive through the ranch and you see the bobcats and you see the coyotes and you see the deer that call it home, in spite of the fact we may have 6 film crews in there at one time filming, it's absolute chaos. And yet that balance still exists. The balance with the community still exists. And then the support within the company. When we got a call from one of our business units to grow 7 acres of corn for an episodic coming up out of season, because corn likes to grow in the summer, yet they need it in the fall. The challenges that come with it, and that we're able, I can't tell you what it is, but when you see the corn, it's our corn. I've been with the company 27 years, and it feels like I started yesterday. I have the best job in the company. I discussed it. I have the best job. And I work for the best company on the planet.
For me, being a part of Disney, it is, like Candace said, the smiles, right, that you bring to people's faces. But it's also an escape for folks, right? The reality of the world today is very difficult at times, and we give the ability for people to go and have an escape, whether it's to watch a movie or to go to a park, listen to music, to be able to just escape just a little bit from some of the roughness. The other thing that it really is important to me being part of Disney is really, for example, the fact that they selected me to be a part of this project. It just shows how really important diversity and inclusion is to the company, to include, you know, female construction manager. So I'm really, really proud of it.
And my partner in crime, leading lady, Wendy.
Well, I'm about to celebrate my 25th year at the company in a couple months. What's so special about Disney, and I think Candace, you mentioned it too, it doesn't matter where you go and people start talking, you meet new people and they say, what do you do? And I say, I work for Disney. And it doesn't matter what you do. It takes about 20 minutes to get to, oh, what do you do for Disney? There's no law that you work for Disney. But being in my world and having the honor to document the history of this company explore all new subjects having to do with Disney has been just world opening, and being able to collaborate with the people across the company in all the different divisions over the years has just been so satisfying. And it was a couple of days ago we did some run-throughs here, and it wasn't until then, and it was Christina actually, I realized that having worked on this project for so long and being so immersed in it, that the people who are in the book have no idea really what it is. And so Christina came in the room and we played that sizzle and she just started crying. She said, I had no idea what you guys were doing. And so I have to say, this is now just overwhelming to me to have brought all of you together, and I can't wait for everyone to see the book and the documentary and the episodes, because we've been watching the rough cuts of everything, and my husband can tell you I cry every day watching them and get all weepy and have to put myself together.
In a good way.
In a good way. Everything is just really touching, and it's really for all of you, right? We're all here because of you and the fans, and I think we all share your passion. I've never met more passionate people in my life, no matter what part of the company they're in. And I think that Disney just gets into your DNA, and that's what it's all about. And we thank you for being so supportive and so enthusiastic, and again, bringing that passion to everything that we do. Just before we close out, I just wanted to also just say thank you, because this has been an incredible collaboration across a variety of divisions, but our partners at Disney Plus have been fantastic to work with. But in addition to that, I just want to say thank you to them for putting those clips together for me in a shockingly short period of time. And a lot of you have been watching the screen and seeing this logo all over the expo and seeing all the design elements. And I just wanted to throw a quick thank you to another partner in crime who I've had the privilege and pleasure of collaborating with many times so far, but Winnie Ho is responsible for a lot of the visuals that you've seen. Call her out. Say thank you for just another amazing journey. And this is really just the beginning of this one. It's going to be the gift that keeps giving, and we're pretty excited about it.
Yeah, we are really, it is the book, it is the series, and you can bet that D23.com is going to have a lot of exclusives in the few months leading up to it, so of course be sure to check that out. And on that note, Esty, Steve, Christina, Candace, Eric, Chris, great to have you all here. Wendy, thank you for being such a fantastic collaborator, and thank all of you for being here today. Enjoy D23.